Hey, folks, we're going to get started. Probably give us 2 minutes.
Tom Schultz.
Ready? Good morning, members of the MAG Regional Council. This meeting is now called to order. For those around the table, please turn on your microphones when speaking. For those participating in the room and via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. I would also ask, just to help meetings being recorded. Andrea just kind of told me that the last meeting, I usually call out who made a motion, who seconded, but I didn't do that all the time. So her and the team go back and look at the video and try and picture who's saying what. So if you can say who's making the motion and who's making the second, that would be great. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items on today's agenda and on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you'd like to comment at today's meeting, please fill out a white request to speak card at the information table in the hallway and give it to MAG staff. If you parked in the garage, parking validators are available on the information table in the hallway. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Regional Council. I'll go down the list of members alphabetically. Please unmute and indicate if you are present. Mayor Beck.
Present.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Scott Moore as proxy for Mayor Bian Wilner. Thank you. President Burnett. Mayor Crane. Thank you. Ms. Daniels.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Dickey.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Gallego. Mayor Giles.
Here.
Thank you. Supervisor Goodman. Mayor Hall.
I'm here.
Thank you. Mayor Hartke. President Javier. Mayor Hermosillo.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Lavalde.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Governor Roe Lewis. Mr. Meck.
Hello, Luis.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Molina. Mayor Morris.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Orsford.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Ortega. Mayor Pereira.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Peterson.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Pizzillo. Mayor Rodriguez. Mayor Schoaf.
Here.
Thank you. Supervisor Sellers.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Sykes.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Smith. Mayor Walter. Mayor Wires. Chair Weiss.
Here.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Jeff Brown is proxy for Mayor Wheatley.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Wilson.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Woods. Is there anyone that I missed? Mr. Chair, we have
Mayor Ortega should have said aye, present. Thank you.
Ortega.
Welcome, Mayor Ortega.
Thank you.
Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Buckeye Mayor Eric Orsborn?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next item is call to the audience. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call to the audience agenda item unless the committee requests an exception to this limit. Andrew, do we have any cards?
No, Mr. Chair, we've not received any requests to speak.
All right, thank you. Item number 4 is the executive director's report. We have both gentlemen there, but Eric, I'm assuming that you'll be doing the director's report.
For now, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Zerker, welcome. Is this your first official regional council meeting?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. Good to be here.
All right, we go to the next slide. So early this month, MAG hosted, in conjunction with Vitalist Health Foundation and Arizona Community Foundation, a promising home housing practices webinar. Thank you, Mayor Weiss, for speaking at that event, as well as Chandler Council Member Mark Stewart participated too. Successful models were shared in terms of how we can increase the supply of housing, including an example from the city of Surprise. So thank you for your participation in that. You can go to the next slide. We just found out this yesterday, we were awarded a $1.75 million SMART grant. This is part of the bipartisan infrastructure law establishing, it's called the Strengthening Mobility and Revolutionizing Transportation Grants Program. We'll just call it the SMART program. MAG was part of the successful SMART grant application, leveraging our work on emerging technology, including the Drive Arizona digitizing roadways with innovative V2X ecosystems for safe, inclusive Arizona. V2X is vehicle to everything connection. So it's the next level of technology for vehicles. So very pleased to, once again, being recognized for our emerging technology program also. And there's money associated with it too. So that's always good. Go to the next slide. Mr. Chair, as you mentioned, we have Mr. Zucker here today. He is the incoming next executive director for MAG. Very pleased to have him here today and help through the transition. As you know, my retirement is effective July 1st of this year. Also like to welcome you and others to a welcome reception for Ed following this meeting in their Ironwood room today. Mr. Chair, that completes my report. Thank you.
Eric, thank you for that. Next item is approval of the consent agenda. Are there any members who wish to have an item removed from consent agenda for separate consideration? Hearing and seeing none, can I get a motion on the consent agenda, please?
So moved. Bridget Peterson. Second, Mayor Hermosillo.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor in the room say aye. Aye. Andrew, do you mind doing a roll call of the members online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will call the names of members who are participating and indicate how you vote. Mayor Beck.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Hall.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Hermosillo.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Lavalde.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Meck.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Ortega.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Pereira.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Schoaf. Mayor Schoaf. Mayor Wilson. Thank you, Mayor
Aye.
Schoaf. Mayor Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you. Is there anyone that I missed?
Mayor Molina, and I vote aye.
Thank you, Mayor Molina. Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you for that. Eric, item number 6, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this item, Regional Affordable Housing Public Education Campaign Update. Amy St. Peter is going to do the introductions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the Regional Council. We're very excited to be here today. Update. Just as a reminder, the development of a regional public education campaign about affordable housing is one of the action steps in Pathways Home, which is a regional homelessness action plan for local and tribal governments, which you approved last December. In December of 2021. In April of 2022, we fully integrated these efforts with Home Matters to Arizona in order to maximize the resources that we have and to be able to leverage each other's support and outreach into our various circles of influence throughout the region. During our last update to you in November, we presented to you the marketing strategy for the campaign. Today, we'll be sharing with you the visual elements that have been created for the campaign, as well as the name, which you see is Home is Where It All Starts. Can we go to the next slide, please? But first, we want to ground this conversation on why we're conducting the campaign. There are many reasons why, both economically speaking, as well as socially, as well as just a number of human-centered reasons throughout the region. But this is one of them. Her name is Claire. She experienced homelessness with her family because they could not afford housing. Thanks to assistance received from a local nonprofit, she was able to stabilize. She was able to get a really good job, save up money, work really hard. And then she was able to purchase the home that you see in that picture with her daughter. So Claire was able to stabilize because of her access to housing that she could afford. But there are many other people like Claire who don't yet have that opportunity. And so we're working really hard for Claire and for so many others who struggle to have a place to call home, knowing that our region will be stronger when everyone has that access and they can stabilize and prosper as a result. Next slide, please. And this is what we're trying to do through this campaign. We are working really hard to inspire and to cultivate champions in every community throughout the region, throughout the state, that can help us to promote greater access to affordable rents and mortgages. And with the idea that everyone needs a home that really meets their needs. And needs are defined broadly in this sense. It's not just about your budget. It's also about being close to the people and places that matter to you. Your job, your congregation, your family, your friends, your doctor's office, your children's school, things like that. And so we're trying to provide this greater access by promoting greater acceptance of affordable housing. Next slide, please. So we want to hold ourselves accountable to making progress in this campaign. And we want to be able to clearly articulate the impact that we're achieving through this campaign. So we've developed an array of both short-term and long-term goals. You see the long-term goals in front of you. And a lot of this is really about reshaping the narrative. How do we talk about affordable housing differently? Knowing that that can be kind of a trigger word and can stop conversations before they have a chance to begin at times. And so we're reshaping that narrative in ways like talking about affordable rents and mortgages, putting homes within reach, having a home that meets your needs, and inviting people across all spectrums and different beliefs to be able to enter into this conversation in a really constructive way. In doing so, we hope to build coalitions of support. And this has to be multidisciplinary. It's not just about any one sector being involved and being effective in this. It's about everyone pulling together to make this happen. And if we're successful in that, we will have more attainable housing options across the region. And we'll have a greater housing portfolio, a more diverse housing portfolio available throughout the region. And hopefully fewer barriers to people that would prevent them from attaining that stable housing. Next slide, please. So in order to meet those long-term goals, we need to meet some short-term goals. And you see those before you on the screen now. And in the development of that intentional framework, we deeply appreciate your input, your guidance on that. We've received great input as well from our MAG Management Committee, our local jurisdiction committee, your public information officers, and a number of public input opportunity sessions. And we've taken all of that feedback and created a very intentional framework that every community can use, that the region can use when we're talking about promoting more accessible and more affordable housing. We're hoping that each community will take a look at these materials that we've developed and consider how you might be able to implement these in your community in a way that makes sense for your community, understanding that we're all entering this conversation from very different points and very different perspectives. At the same time, we'll be coordinating activities at that regional level. And so thanks to your support that we've received so far, we will be conducting some regional, the media buys. We're particularly thankful to the city of Avondale, town of Paradise Valley, town of Fountain Hills, and the Virginia G. Piper Charitable Trust for providing funding for those regional media buys. In addition to that, we hope that every community will assist with their own local media buys and be able to feature this work through your websites, your social media, through whatever avenues you might have at your disposal. we'll be providing you tools to help you share this word as well. And in just a moment, Catherine will explain the toolkit with you, but we're creating samples of a variety of different ways to communicate with people about affordable rents and mortgages and making those available to all of our stakeholders. And we hope that you'll join us as we launch this campaign within the next month or so. I'd like to acknowledge Kelly Taft on our team. She's been an integral part of this campaign from within the MAG team. And at this point, I'd like to introduce another integral part of this campaign, and that's Catherine Alonso. She is the head of Javelina. She is a consultant under contract with Home Matters to Arizona, and she's been instrumental in developing this campaign in partnership with all of you. And thank you for your input. Catherine.
Thanks so much, Amy, and thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Next slide, please. So what you see here is the final logo and name for the campaign, Home is Where It All Starts. And it's really exciting to be able to share this with you all and with our wider community. So to give a little bit of background as to what went into this, we developed a lot of research. As a part of the process, we held a number of community engagement and input sessions to ensure that we were hearing from a wide variety of stakeholders as to what this brand needed to reflect. And what you see here is a logo that really represents the concept of looking through a keyhole. It is also depicted images that are very close to us in Arizona, the sun and the mountains. And really what we are looking to do here in the entire campaign, and it's reflected in the brand, is focus on opportunity. We're really, the entire marketing strategy, as we shared with you in November, is really anchored around how can we emphasize and tell a story about what is possible instead of what is missing. And that you'll see reflected in the brand here. As we were developing the campaign, we really had a high legal standard that we wanted to meet for the name. And so because every name in the world is taken, we did stumble into some barriers there. And this name, Home is Where It All Starts, is trademarked and we feel is a fantastic reflection of the campaign. Next slide, please. And here you see an example of what the logo would look like in the wild. This is an example piece of collateral. It could also appear on a web page, really with the statement of what we're seeking to do and how that brand may be reflected. And then on the next slide, this is the Home is Where It All Starts landing page, which is currently live and out in the wild in partnership with Cox Media. And we will be, the landing page actually has quite a few elements to it, but we will be filling out a full website over time and ensuring that it has all of the resources needed for our partners. And then as Amy mentioned, if you go to the next slide, one of the very core pieces of the initial strategy is development of the toolkit. We know that to really get the brand out there in the community and also to build brand awareness and really move the needle on changing the narrative and changing the conversation, as Amy mentioned, is ensuring that our stakeholders and our partners are doing this with us, that we really are working with all of the various organizations and municipalities who are already doing this work to make sure that we're moving forward together. And so the toolkit is really designed to enable that to happen. The toolkit will include sample web copy for organizations to be able to include on their own websites about the campaign, as well as social media posts, emails, digital ads. We really are designing it as, surprise, surprise, a toolkit that people can really use to make this as easy as possible for us to advance the campaign together. And then we were able to do, if you go to the next slide, we're able to do a soft launch of the campaign at the Arizona Housing Coalition conference just a few weeks ago. And we had a graphic artist, a graphic reporter there who was able to ask people a series of questions related to the campaign. And the question she asked that you're seeing reflected here is, what does having a home mean for community? And through the idea of the keyhole reflected here are the answers that she heard. And so I love sharing this because it really is a demonstration of what we're seeking to do with the campaign as we move it forward, which is to focus on what's possible, focus on the opportunity we have, and also on how this all ties us together. And I'll pass over to Amy to talk about next step.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So this is what's coming up. We were very fortunate in that Valley leadership was able to secure an integrated partnership with Cox Communications. So collectively across the state, we'll be paying them $150,000. And in return, they will give us at least $300,000 worth of creative and media buys. So we're excited about that because we need to be very frugal with the investment that our stakeholders have made in this campaign, and this will help us to be able to do just that. So they're providing a significant amount of in-kind contributions in addition to the investment that we're making in them. So we're excited for that. We will be launching this campaign within the next month or so. So we'll be providing you and your staff all that you would need to promote this campaign at the local level. And then we'll start promoting this campaign at the regional level with those media buys. And if we receive any additional funding for this, that will just increase what we're able to do at a very specific level, specifically for Maricopa County and for Pinal County as well. And so if we're able to receive additional sponsorships, we'll be able to do even more media buys. But we're excited to be able to share this toolkit with all of you. If you have anything that you're looking for specifically in this toolkit, please do let us know. We want to make sure that we're meeting your needs as we partner with you to launch this campaign. We can go to the next slide, please. And again, thank you. Thank you for all of your support throughout the development of this campaign. It's critically important that this resonate with a very diverse audience because we have a diverse interests and array of different interests throughout the entire region and certainly throughout the state. That is a QR code if you'd like to access the toolkit. And if you go to our website, you'll be able to access all of the materials. We did really hear you too and wanting to tell authentic stories and show pictures of people who live here, not just stock photos. So as we outreach more and more for those stories and those photos, we'll be able to offer more and more of that throughout the website and through the. But thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your time. And that concludes our presentation. We'd be happy to take any questions or comments that you might have. Thank you.
Amy, thank you for that. I appreciate the fact that you took to heart the comments that were made months ago on really showing people from the community. And I think that's important because I think it's once you tell their story, the woman, the single mom, you tell that story, it becomes much more human. It becomes much more local than just an anomalous problem and that happens somewhere else. Anybody else from the members? Any comments? Anyone online? Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric, item number 7, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Regional Council. The next item is the next step in our discussion of the development of our Unified Planning Work Program and Budget for the next 2 fiscal years. Amy Epley will be presenting this. Amy is our Accounting Program Manager. Amy?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair and members of the MEG Regional Council for letting me discuss with you the development of the MEG fiscal year 24 and 25 biennial Unified Planning Work Program and Budget. We have been presenting on the UPWAP since January, where we presented the MAP dues and assessments, where we had the fiscal year final 24 CPIU of 4.7% that was applied, and we provided the budget timeline. In February, we presented an updated draft dues and assessments where we increased the fiscal year 24 911 assessment by the $92,416 to cover a portion of the costs associated with the evaluation of the 911 system. And we also did the fiscal year 25 rates based on the final CPIU of 8.0167%. We also presented a draft of the new and ongoing projects. This month, we are presenting another update to the draft dues and assessments and the draft UPWAP documents, which includes a budget in brief and the UPWAP with the project outcome measures for 23 and 24 results. Next slide, please. In April, we will be presenting a draft of the UPWAP and budget documents reflecting any updates and additional draft details that we've completed. We will also have the Biennial Intermodal Planning Group IPG meeting on April 11th, which includes ADOT, FHWA, FTA, Valley Metro, and other external partners. And in May, we will present the final UPWAP for approval. In attachment A, you will find the 24 and 25 updated dues and assessments. The member dues have been increased due to the funding for the state legislative services. The current RFP will not be completed in time for the UPWAP approval in May. So we've included $100,000 for the fiscal year 24 and 25 assessment. And the 911 assessment has also been adjusted based on the participants with the remaining being reallocated both based on the appropriate cost and percentage of population. Next slide, please. Attachment B is a draft budget and brief document. This provides the list of the new and ongoing projects. And this document will also provide a budget summary to highlight and summarize the financial information in the 300+ page UPWP. And attachment C is a draft UPWP document where we have the fiscal year 24 and 25 outcome measures, the goals that we have for 24 and 25. And we have the fiscal year 22 and 23 results from the outcome measures and goals set for those years. Next slide, please. That concludes my presentation. Again, this is for information and discussion. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Amy, thank you for all the hard work on this. I think this is probably your third or fourth update to us on this. So any comments from the committee members? Anyone online? Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric, next item, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Regional Council. The next item is an update on the activities of the 911 Study Committee, to be presented by MAG Policy and Government Relations Director Nathan Pryor, with support from Audrey Skidmore, our Information Technology Director. Nathan.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Regional Council. Today, I'm going to provide an update on 911 in our region. As Eric mentioned, I'm joined today by Audrey Skidmore, our Information Technology Director here at MAG, as well as Liz Graber, who is the Maricopa Region 911 Administrator. Today's presentation is intended to provide an overview to Regional 911 and the work of the 911 Study Committee. We anticipate providing more details at follow-up meetings to Regional Council on Regional 911 issues in the coming months. Part of that, we do have a consultant review process that is currently ongoing. I'm going to touch on that one. We anticipate bringing the results of that consultant process to Regional Council in the coming months. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of background about 911 in the Maricopa region. Established in 1985. We do have a number of agencies that do have a role in this. City of Phoenix administers Maricopa Region 911. That means the MR 911 team is housed at City of Phoenix, providing service and maintenance to the region's 911 system. Just a note for the purposes of this conversation, when I talk about the region, Maricopa Region 911, that means within the boundaries of Maricopa County broadly. However, there is a relationship and connection to our Pinal members as well, so I'm not leaving them out. Another agency that plays a role in this is the Arizona Department of Administration. They administer the funding from the Emergency Telecommunications Services Revolving Fund. If you look on your phone bill, you'll see a 20-cent tax on your phone bill that gets collected by ADOR annually at the state. More recently, that's about $19 million statewide for 911. Another agency that is involved with this is, of course, MAG. At the MAG, we have our committee processes. We currently have 3 911 committees. Our public safety answering point managers, so those frontline managers working our 911 call centers, as well as our 911 oversight team, which are police, fire chiefs, and similar. We also currently have running our 911 study committee. I'll touch on that here in a moment. Just in terms of process, the public safety answering point managers, when they meet, one of the things that they do is they develop an annual budget. In fact, we're in that time frame of the year where we will start collecting projects from the members and roll that into a budget for ultimately consideration and approval by Regional Council. That usually takes place in the fall, and then we submit that budget to Arizona Department of Administration. And again, ADOA does review in those budgets for funding decisions. Next slide, please. So focusing on the 911 Study Committee, this was initially formed in September of 2016. They've been tasked with consideration of proposed managed services by ADOA at that time. And their recommendation was a continuation of Maricopa Region 911 to provide maintenance and services. During that time period in 2016 and 2017, 2017, the study committee did utilize an independent consultant to assist in the development of a 7-year plan for the region. That plan was approved by Regional Council in June of 2017. Next slide, please. Here's the current composition of the study committee. The study committee was reformed in November of last year. We do have co-chairs, Chris Brady and Kevin Phelps of Mesa and Glendale respectively. We also have two other managers from Buckeye and Chandler. We have members of our oversight team, our chair and vice chair of the oversight team. We have the PSAP managers included as well, chair and vice chair, a representative from our MAG technical advisory group, as well as the police representatives you can see on the screen. Next slide, please. So more recently, as I mentioned, this committee has resumed their work effective November of 22. Their conversations have focused on the current status of Maricopa Region 911. As I did mention, we do have a 7-year plan. We are in year 6, 7 of that plan. So now is a good time for this group to re-engage. The study committee has been utilizing a consultant to review the following. That includes an assessment of the regional 911 system. Part of that is we've been doing right now interviews with the PSAP managers, oversight team members, city managers or their designee to understand concerns of what our members expect from our regional 911 system. Another component of the consultant's work is assessment of emerging 911 technologies. Another component of their work is evaluation or recommendations of 911 technologies. We'll also be looking to our peer metro areas nationally to understand the practices that they're utilizing, what might make sense for us. Next slide, please. So this is, again, intended to be an overview, reminder of the work that MAG does, other agencies do to make our regional 911 system work. We do anticipate being back in future months, as I mentioned, bringing some of that consultant work back for consideration by regional council. We'll provide additional updates on the conversations of the 911 study committee as needed. Mr. Chairman, that completes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Nathan, if members of the committee or those online have more in-depth questions, should they get with you? Eric, should they get with you? Ed?
I think the appropriate contact Nathan Pryor. He's
Okay.
real close to this, and I think he'd be the primary point of contact.
And again, Nathan, like you said, this 30,000-foot view of what's going on. It might be appropriate for members of the committee who have other questions, kind of get with you one-on-one and get a more in-depth answers on those. Anybody else? Anybody? Mayor Waters?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've heard some rumors that there's been some cities have made the decision already to exit the system. I know that there's more research being done. I think that it'd be maybe wise of everyone if we slowed that process down, gave it a chance to get more information. This is a big deal for all of us. Whether you decide to exit or to stay with the current system, we're all going to be affected one way or another. And I would just ask everybody to slow your boats a little bit. Let's make sure we get all the information before decisions are made. Thank you.
Anyone online? Any comments? Nathan, thank you. I know you're up next too, right?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Eric?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the next item is the legislative update. Nathan Pryor will be providing that with help from Don Bullen and Audra Kester Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Regional Council. Next slide, please. This is by way of reminder, our conversation that Regional Council we had last month. We were tracking, of course, a number of bills related to the extension of the half-cent sales tax for transportation in Maricopa County. We were largely focused on then House Bill 2031. Since then, procedurally, House Bill 2031 is not active at this time. However, another bill vehicle has emerged since then, Senate Bill 1246. Next slide, please. So Senate Bill 1246 is to strike everything by Representative Cook onto Senator Farnsworth's original bill. We've been providing weekly updates to you all via email updates on the developments of this bill. Representative Cook had testimony on this bill at March 8th at the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee, of which he is the chair. At that time, MAG signed in against the bill because of the provisions. I'll get to that here in a moment. But we indicated that we're supportive of the bill moving forward and that we appreciate Representative Cook holding stakeholder meetings of which we are a participant. And to thank you to Mayor Weiss, who provided testimony at the March 8th House Transportation Committee on behalf of MAG. So thank you. Fast forward to March 16th, the bill was heard again, and it was voted affirmatively out of that committee, the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, by a vote of 7-4. Again, at that time, MAG did sign in against the bill, but it indicated our appreciation to Representative Cook to keep this bill and issue moving forward. And we'll looking forward to additional stakeholder meetings to come. Next slide, please. So here are those provisions in 1246, as I mentioned, ones that we have some concerns with. Notably, on this first slide here is changes to funding allocations. On freeways, we're seeing 37.4% in our adopted plan, moved up to 52%. Arterials, regional programs have largely stayed the same. Of note of concern is transit, where in our regionally adopted plan, we were at 40.4%. Seeing this bill proposal move it to 26%. Next slide, please. Also, we're seeing a prohibition on sales tax projects, reducing existing lane miles on streets and highways. The adding 2 more members to the Transportation Policy Committee, one representing taxpayer interests and the other one representing housing interest. And another provision of concern is requiring MAG to follow state highway performance factors that could conflict with multimodal federal regulations. Next slide, please. We'll continue to participate in stakeholder conversations. We're also tracking that. We understand another bill may emerge. We'll continue tracking that, participate in those conversations, provide updates to membership as needed. Mr. Chairman, I know there's a lot there available for any questions.
Nathan, I appreciate that. You know, I had a mayor reach out to me over the weekend and say, is this a good bill? It is not a perfect bill. It is not the bill that we want. But I will tell you that what I said to the team after the vote was affirmative. We went out in the hallway and talked about this. And if you would have said to us 7 months ago, do you think we'll get a bill out of committee? Well, in November with this legislature, we would have said probably not, but we did. And it is a bill that Chairman Cook has promised that he would work with us on. He has been a man of his word to this point. I have no reason to doubt that the stakeholder meetings are being held in good faith and that we will bring something forward that I think we can all live with. Is it going to be an easy road? It is not. But I think the discussions have been honest, have been open, and have been sincere, and we'll kind of go from there and take it one day at a time. So my guess is that something will happen toward the end of the legislation, at the end of the legislative year. I don't see this happening next week or in April or May. I see this happening at the last minute, the last hour of the last day. So stay tuned. Mayor Osborne had asked if he can help kind of be at the state capitol. I think it's going to take a lot of mayors to kind of weigh in with their legislators and have a say in it. Chairman Sellers.
Thank you. Just so everyone knows, excuse me, we did have a meeting with the business community on Monday at Transportation Business Partners, where we had MAG come in and give a presentation to the business community on the environmental impact if we don't get the bill pretty much in its form that was approved here. And I don't know if you or John or Audra would like to comment on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Sellers will have staff come to the podium.
Thank you, Chairman Weiss, Chairman Sellers, and members of Regional Council. Indeed, we had the opportunity to join the Transportation Business Partners on Monday. Tim Franquist, our Environmental Services Director, was able to present part of a presentation this body has already seen, likely will be seeing again next month, focused on the consequences as it relates specifically to air quality and ozone. We are moving up in our classification, as this body already knows, to moderate, and are on a timeline to meet attainment by next year. The implications to business are significant. And in addition to that, of course, the public health concerns ultimately of ground level ozone. And so I think that presentation was well received. A lot of questions over the course of about a 2-hour conversation with our business partners and the ramifications, and really ultimately emphasizing that the easy part is to implement the transportation plan for which you all have worked over the course of the last couple of years in delivering. We also have to do additional items. And so it's a matter of how much regulation are we going to be comfortable with bringing to this region to be able to get into non-attain or get out of attainment, get into attainment out of non-attainment, and be able to both deliver multimodal transportation benefits for which this region has been very successful in, but also the competing air quality matters as well.
Well, and I'll just add to that, you know, my point to that group was that because we got some feedback that said, if we do all these things, what if we still don't meet the requirements? And my point was, if we're going to have any basis for negotiating with the Environmental Protection Agency, we need to show them we're doing everything we can to try to improve our situation.
Thank you, Chairman Sellers. Mayor Osborne?
Get, thank you. And every time we get into talking about ozone, you lose me on on a lot of this. We've had presentations from you all regarding the ozone and our attainment or non-attainment or where we're headed in the future. We've had the pleasure of sitting through those and understanding exactly whether we agree with how they're coming up with the rationale or the actual attainment or non-attainment or not. We still are understanding that from a MAG perspective, from Transportation Policy Committee to MAG Regional Council to I think many other organizations within MAG. Is anybody delivering that message in that detail to the legislators and helping them understand what exactly that means? I know we get wrapped around the axle on percentages of how much is going to freeways and arterials and transit, but I don't know how in depth that has been. I can hear my chair here saying yes, but just for the record, can you talk a little bit about what has been presented to the legislature?
Yes, Chairman Weiss, members of Regional Council, I'll point also to Mr. Zerker, who can talk a little bit more about the productive conversations we've been having with our legislative body. We've had several conversations over the last couple of weeks with individual legislators, and in addition to that, members of both caucuses. And so I'll ask Mr. Zerker to talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Mayor Osborne. That's sort of a dilemma we're trying to wrestle with. Is that to fully understand the air quality issue takes, I mean, I think the presentation, Mr. Sellers, was over an hour and a half to get through with all the questions back and forth. And that was with a group of business folks who came into it with some understanding of what was happening. So finding the venue to get legislators to put that kind of amount of time into air quality while they're bombarded with every other bill in the world has been difficult. We've tried to make the point as best we can to those who want to understand it, but it's a challenging subject. The problem is it's almost the most important one, because as you all know, if we don't attain an air quality standard and we go to actually a worse air quality designation, it is going to change how economic development happens in the non-attainment region, basically in the MAG region. And that is a really serious conversation that we've had a hard time penetrating. So I think what we've counted on is that the business partners, who can often get more time and attention from members than sometimes we at MAG can, educating that group so that they can go and start spreading that word as they have it is really important. And also, as you all with your individual legislators, you bump into them at the grocery store or wherever it may be, you know, kind of giving them a little pitch on air quality might be the best way to go. But it is a complicated issue, and we are open to suggestions about how to do that, have that conversation. One of the reactions that we often get on air quality, unfortunately, is, well, we need to fight EPA. That may very well be, but I think Mr. Sellers said it. You can fight EPA in court, and Arizona has done that and lost several times. or you can end up negotiating with EPA. And to what Mr. Sellers said, you go into EPA with a stronger hand when you have a list of things you have actively done, as opposed to we just don't like it. And so that's what we're trying to communicate and work with folks on. So that's a little longer answer than I anticipated, but it's the hardest one we have to communicate is the air quality implications. So any advice we're open to.
Yeah, that I don't know. I was going to ask, in the grocery store, is that in the produce section or should that be deli or dairy? I don't, yeah, I hope I'm not running into them there. I think that's just such a difficult hurdle to get over, and we got to really power through that. Everyone's in a race to prove how anti-transit they are, and from a conservative legislator perspective, and I don't think folks realize the impact that has, whether you're for it or against it or whatever that looks like down the road, the implications if we don't include that in that that type of moving people around in the plan, which we approved at TPC and here unanimously, we're going to end up in trouble down the way. And I think we can't say that enough and loud enough.
And I think just to amplify that, I think our strategy has been pretty much to see if we can get the business community along with you all as elected representatives to give that. It really, I know Chris Camacho at GPAC is one who really is alarmed about this and spreads the word whenever he can.
Yeah.
We want to get the other business leaders and even the industry leaders, the folks from Intel, the folks from TSMC, the folks from heavy construction that will be affected by this air quality issue. It's probably more effective for them to preach it than for us bureaucrats to do that. And so we're trying to educate as many people as we can. We're happy to come speak to whatever group you think would be effective. Tim has a presentation that we can do anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes, depending on how much engagement people want to do. So we would offer that as well, that we're happy to come talk to anybody about air quality if you think that's helpful.
And if I remember correctly, the effects of that non-attainment, the dollar value that was placed on that was an incredible amount of money that probably makes what we're taking out of transit look like peanuts, in comparison. So we're either going to spend it on transit to try and reach that attainment or at least show good effort, or we're going to spend that in lost opportunity from economic development.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mayor Orsborn, members of Regional Council, that's correct. There are opportunity costs, there's regulatory costs. But in addition to that, if we're unable to implement the State Improvement Program or SIP, or that is not approved, we have consequences that include loss of all federal funding to the state of Arizona for transportation, not just to this region, and then a freeze on our transportation improvement program. And just by way of reminder, the TIP covers all regionally significant projects within the region, regardless of funding source. So that would impact development paid for by private development dollars. Those developments and those projects couldn't move forward. So it's really significant.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think one of the things we get into is an ideological battle with legislators who are against transit no matter what, and looking at the benefits of transit. I think they look at the argument we've heard, 3 or 4 times up at the Capitol was, well, I see the buses are empty. I see light rails empty. Okay. But the truth is that you've got to have a plan that mitigates the environmental aspects of it. And we have a pretty robust transit plan in the Valley. And to say we're just not going to fund it and everything's going to be okay. And we've heard this, the first meeting was, we don't like what the feds are doing, so we're going to fight them. Good luck with that. I mean, it's really hard. I think what you're seeing now is I think what you're seeing is a realization of where what transit plays a role, and it's deeper and it's more complicated than what they thought. And I think, John, you've had these discussions over and over on transit, and it's probably the same arguments that you've heard for many years.
Thank you. I do have maybe a couple of thoughts to share. First of all, I join in congratulating everyone who got this bill out of the committee. That is a major achievement, and I'm glad we still have a vehicle. I think it's ironic that bill include, actually tinkers a little bit with the TPC process and endorses TPC and then absolutely ignores the outcome of TPC. And they start from scratch with their own regional transportation plan after, again, endorsing the importance of having stakeholders come together to do a comprehensive regional plan. So that's interesting. I think it is going to be tempting probably for some members of this crowd to say, hey, some of my priorities are included in that bill. Maybe I should sign on to that. I encourage you not to do that. And if this bill proceeds as is, I personally would be encouraging the governor to veto it, and I would be encouraging our county supervisors not to call that election because it's a plan that does not address the needs of this region. So I remain optimistic that we'll get there. But again, I think we need to circle the wagons and remember what our priorities are.
400 public meetings, 10,000 citizen engagements on the plan that we brought forth last year. That is not a minor effort at all. A unanimous vote of TPC, a regional council, years of going back and forth. I would agree that the plan that we brought forth is the plan that the public wants. There's been polling done on it. That polls at somewhere above 70% approval. It's the plan that works for us going forward. The point that I made at the last time I testified was you're going to look at the West Valley doubling. Right now, west of I-17, 1.7 million people live west of I-17. In the next 30 years, that population will double. You can't build enough freeways for that population. You just can't. There's got to be an option there. And this plan isn't built for today or next year. It's built for 20 years out. So John, I would think you're right. The plan that we put forth over many years and many negotiations on SR 24 and SR 30 and the percentage of transit and light rail and everything else is a plan that is worth fighting for. Jack, I think you had something else.
Well, the other argument that we keep making to the legislature is it does us no good to submit a bill to the voters that can't get approved.
Chairman, just could someone confirm what the process would be if we didn't have to ask the legislature? As the only county that doesn't, can't just call it ourselves, would it be strictly through Board of Supervisors or how would that work?
If we didn't have to go through the legislature?
Yep.
It'd be initiative process. I mean, but it would be Eric, Ed?
We're actually doing some research on that because it's often called the Free Maricopa Plan. To free Maricopa to be like all the other 15 counties or 14 counties in the state. It's actually more complicated, we're discovering, and we have a law firm helping us figure that out. As I understand it, the legislation for all the other counties is they call an election and they create an RTA, a Regional Transportation Authority. They call an election and then they do a plan. However, those plans in other counties are nowhere near as robust as they are in Maricopa County because of our mix of transit, arterials, and freeways. So I was on the side of this Free Maricopa, and then as I've learned more, I'm like, oh my God, that has a lot of implications to it that we need to fully understand, and we're trying to do that. But I know Audra and John have really been digging in, so maybe a little more detail on that. But it's a process that, for example, I think Pinal just went through, although they lost a court case about that, but Pinal had gone through that effort. And so maybe Audra describe that a minute.
Certainly. Chairman Weiss, Mayor Dickey, members of Regional Council. The simplest way to articulate this is Maricopa County doesn't currently have standing to be able to call an election for a transportation tax. All other 14 counties, as Mr. Zerker has already indicated, have that authority through a series of statutes focused on a regional transportation authority that has two parts to it, a plan part as well as a tax part that goes to, both of those go to voters. It has a series of other implications, as Mr. Zerker has indicated, that would be difficult to carry through in this county, but regardless, that isn't standing that we have currently or existing in the state. So there is no other avenue currently to be able to go to our voters outside of a legislative path. And so that, at least in the near term, that is what we're working on. That being said, as direction from our executive committee following the veto. As Mr. Zerker has indicated, we have acquired considerable legal prowess to be able to evaluate alternative paths at the same time as our legislative path that we are currently in.
And it is possible that that is, I think, to maybe Mayor Giles's point, that may be an option that's left to the body if we can't be successful through this process in the legislature. That may, though, be the option that we have to consider.
And at this point, I would tell you that I think we just want to negotiate in good faith and go the legislative path right now. So
Just real quick, is transportation the only issue that the county can't call their own issues on? Can you do anything else? No? Thanks.
Yeah, being new to this, what I'm hearing is it almost sounds like if you adopt what's going through right now, you may not be able to clear the hurdles on clean air. So what are the odds? And again, just throwing this out, what are the odds? Because if you go through it and you can't clear the hurdles on clean air, then you're kind of like wasting your time, right? What are the odds of taking what has already been approved that the governor vetoed and trying to convince him that it's important that one does meet all the standards, you know, of the air quality so that we can move forward with our legislators to get that back and adopted? I just throw that out because if you adopt something that you can't, doesn't meet the clean air deal, then you're just wasting your time. Am I off on base on this or?
So Joe, if you would have said to me after, when was the election in November, November 6th? You would have said to me November 10th, what's the odds of getting a bill out of committee? I would have probably put it at 10%. So I would tell you that the stakeholder meetings have been pretty positive right now. And I think there's been some good faith negotiating back and forth. I want to see that continue. So I'm a little bit hesitant to put odds in there right now. Give us a month and a half, kind of see where these go. I think people are negotiating in good faith. I think they want to see something done. I think they see this as important. The governor's office has also stepped in a little bit and tried to help. I think she is in support of what we're trying to accomplish. And I think that carries a lot of weight right now. So I'm hesitant to put it on because I don't want to have a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like I don't want to jinx myself or jinx the committee.
No, I understand that. The only thing I'm thinking of is that we knew the original plan met the air quality, correct? You don't know if the plan you end up negotiating will meet that, correct?
Our goal is to negotiate a plan that is as close to what was vetoed last year as possible. And I think the transit part is the really important part of that. One thing that's in there is if you look at reduction of lane miles. I'll give you an example. In Avondale, we have Central Avenue. And Central Avenue was 2 lanes going in each direction for many, many years. There's 4 schools and a church along that road. We reduced it from 4 lanes to 2 lanes along with bike paths and pedestrian paths. We did it for safety because parents were dropping their kids off in the middle of the street, opening the door, and the kids were getting out of the car and getting hit. Under this plan, that reduction of lane miles would result in a penalty. Those are the things that we're trying to negotiate out of here because I think it sounds good on paper, but in practice, it doesn't work.
Chairman Weiss, Mayor Pizzillo, and members of Regional Council, just to add an exclamation point onto your question. That's why it's so important. And our chief talking point is we need a bill that implements the plan. The direction we have received from Regional Council is to successfully acquire enabling legislation that allows the plan that you built to be implemented, in part because we know it's air quality conformant. And Chairman Weiss in his fantastic testimony in committee has emphasized that point each and every single time.
Anyone online?
Mr. Chair, if I could just add one more thing, I think another important point is there's been some conversation I've heard externally that there's been MAG is unwilling to compromise, which is the farthest thing from the truth. Audra has done a review. There's at least 21 or 22 changes that have been compromised on from before the 2022 issues. Weeks to the TPC, 25 years to 20 years, all sorts of things. So we're really down to the 4 things that Nathan put up on the screen, the largest one of which is the allocations that the process came out with that was accepted by the legislatively prescribed plan. Those percentages are what people want to compromise from. And we have taken the position that we're not in a position to compromise those because that is the position of the elected officials who make up the body or the appointed officials also in TPC. So that's, I just want to make it clear, we've been trying to find pathways through and you all have been helpful with that. But where the issue has come is largely on the percentages. And to Mr. Chairman's point, I had a conversation with Mr. Cook and asked about that. He said, track the progress. He said, one bill started at 5%, another bill went to 20%, my bill's at 26%. What is that progress? I said, okay, fair point. So we'll keep tracking the progress, but we at this point are not coming off of the 40.4% transit, 60% roads and arterials.
Thank you, Ed. Eric, any comments at all?
No, I think the discussion pretty much covered all the major comments. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Next item is request for future agenda items. Any member of the committee who would like to have something put on a future agenda? Hearing and seeing none. Comments from the committee? Hearing and seeing none. Folks, we are adjourned. We do have Ed's welcome party at 1 o'clock. Ed baked cakes, so hopefully they're delicious.